Next up is attention-seeking behavior. So whether that's on social media, or how she dresses in public, or whatever. She wants that male validation.
That's a big one. That's a tough one for me.
Is it always male?
It's probably not always male. I think deep down it likely is, if depending on how, like if it's a provocative thing that they're doing.
You know what I was wondered about? Well, yeah, it's interesting because attention is attention, and like which side, sexually speaking, is more important. Definitely, I think for females, like I think they care about what other females think about them a lot.
I think there's two different ones I've seen on like Instagram, for instance. Like I've seen some women that have just all women followers.
That same thing goes for men too.
They're all like very supportive of each other. They're all kind of like, "You're so hot, girl. I love you." And then there's other ones where it's like all dudes. You know what I mean? So there's two different types.
Both are concerned.
You know what I mean? Both.
But okay, I would say
one's more like sexually provocative than the other, but I've seen both.
Okay, so red flag, going back to the dude who's sitting there Twitter pages, right? Like having to look at this woman
high on drugs.
What's going on? How do I see it's a red flag? Like we're talking sort of around the subject. So I would say, like, how often is she checking her phone?
Oh, I got a good one.
How often is she on her Instagram account looking for, what is she looking at, too? Like, is she checking who liked and watched all of her stuff? Like, I have to admit, there are times in my past where I have done that. Mm-hmm. And I've been like, well, who's checking up? And you want to know your audience, and you can kind of describe it to yourself in a way that makes sense. Mm-hmm. But then you start to understand, like, okay, this is a drug. This is doing something to my brain. And so it's like, if I'm looking at a woman and she's on her phone, like if I'm talking to her mid-sentence, she breaks out her phone, sort of like a crackhead. And then all of a sudden I have to just kind of sit there and wait for the moment to transpire. That's a red flag for me. Yeah. I'll be like, that's just going to get worse and worse.
Oh, yeah.
To the point where I'm just like,
the first 2 dates, like,
just
goodbye.
Run away.
Or if you're like on the phone with her and the thing's just going zzz, 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 the whole time, like that's not happening, bro. She's talking to you and she's getting messages left and right. I don't know.
We'll coin the phrase, get the Joseph out of there. Like Joseph running away from Potiphar's wife. There's a time to book it.
Yeah. And also another one, so is like, say you get on the elevator, right? And you're with this girl. And then like a really stud walks in, right? Does she change? Does her focus go? Like what happens when she gets around another stud? You know what I mean? That's another red flag. You could tell. Like, is she focused on you or is she just focused on this attention seeking? Yeah,
well, that's like flirtation. I would say that's a borderline, because people be like, oh, I wasn't flirting. It's like, well, like somebody who comes into that has a presence, they're gonna direct attention towards themselves.
How excited do they get? Are they like, what?
I feel like, like,
well, I think entertaining any male attention, that's cheating.
It's cheating
if you're in the relationship.
And you know what? I'll tell you, to be honest with you, South American women. A lot of the time, and I have experience with this, so I know. Culturally speaking, there is stuff that's more acceptable and not.
Mm-hmm. Oh, culturally,
culturally speaking, like if I don't know what it's like for some of the more conservative white experiences out there, but I do know that like in some of the more Latin experiences, those things are more transient and flowing.
Or like the Egyptians,
they're
like all touching and very different.
Yeah, and like if you were in from their cultural background, you'd be like, these people just like each other. It's all good. These interactions are
the dudes are like that.
They're worse. Too. They kiss each other. They held hands where they walk.
Yeah.
The Egyptian dude. It's another level. You'd say these dudes are homo gay, but they're not.
So an important thing to take into account is the culture where they're coming from.
Yeah, that's where I'll say that, because like if you
like Latinas, then you might have a little bit more of that going on. When you go to the family encounter, the cousin might get kissed up and the slap on the ass, and you might be like, that's just the way they roll around here.
I'm serious. They will get that kiss or that hug, and it will look like flirtation.
They're
like,
but it's not. It's not. Just what it is.
And so I'll say that.
And so dress code, that's another thing. And I guess this is also culturally, because like everyone's got a different taste for what modesty is. We live in Florida. Obviously, there's there's a tough thing to do with that, because I don't think there's a one size fits all for according to like what modesty is and what you like. Like some guys,
they like a little bit more of like, you know, a woman that's a little sexier. You know, some guys might like a very prudish woman. You know what I mean? And I think there's ways to do both.
The Bible is pretty straight up, bro.
But you seriously,
pretty straight up.
Paul is straight up about it. But he's the one.
Here's the issue, though. Is like again, we run into.
He want me to cut my hair.
Preference of the guy that she's with. That's just an attraction preference. That's not modesty related. I would view it as.
And you know what that is?
No, wait.
You know, like it's just gonna be. We like to see stuff.
Yeah.
Well, you do too. I do too. Like, I mean, I want my wife to not just be covered up in a burqa from head to toe, bro.
Well,
like, I would like
home.
to. Well, I mean, even when I go out to dinner,
but that's the difference.
Even when I go out to dinner, I would like to see her be sexy, dude.
So that's like
how sexy.
That is number one. That's
what I said.
There's two different occurrences that is discussed.
It's a rough one,
usually on this topic, especially like amongst like the red pill guys. It's if she's out without you and if she's with you. If she's out without you, it's going to be different than when she's with you.
Like
if she's
a girl's
with
night
you,
out.
then it's kind of like up to you and like what you're willing to tolerate because you're there.
Good point.
And you know, guys like to show off their girls too. But if she's out on her own, that's the big question. How's she going to dress?
Friday night, girls' night out.
Yeah,
everything's crammed up and showing. Then that's an issue, dude. I wouldn't let her go out. I'd be like, I'm going with you. Here's a gun and a knife and a taser, and this is not happening.
No, I mean, like when I think about dress code. Modesty is something that is indicative of confidence, you know, and it comes down to that need for attention and validation, which is an appetite. And again, appetites that are not manicured in the correct way will run amok. This is what happens to anybody, anything. And so when I look at a woman that's able to acknowledge that because we're talking about attractiveness versus sexiness, versus those two things, because like you can have a very attractive woman and she can be showing her attractiveness in a more lewd way, or she can be showing her attractiveness in the way that's more ladylike, conservative, and not only
her
conservative,
bro,
but like she's been see,
that's
it's
not like a brash,
some of those some of the
me.
Things that I find most sexy are the more sort of nuanced ways she handles herself. Right. Not in like how much cleavage can I show, which is like anybody can do that. But it's like, how does she sit down for her meal? How does she pick up her silverware?
Is she sultry? Does she have like that grace?
And there's those things which I'm like, that's where I would look for, and that's what I would see as it being more attractive. And I'd have to acknowledge it myself. This is a good point for younger guys, is to be like, look, obviously your biology is going to respond to visual stuff. Okay, so just kind of push that off the table because it's a given. All right, you're going to see the woman and she's going to make you feel a certain way just based on the way she looks. Now, shift your attention to some of those other character things where it's going to take work, where she's going to have to put herself to thoughtfulness and how do I do this? How do I walk into a place? How do I sit? What are my gestures like as a woman, right? Those things you should be focusing on to say like this woman has that higher level attractiveness.
Yeah.
Because that's where I think Paul was trying to say modesty is indeed more attractive. Because if you do see a woman that loves the Lord and knows she's beautiful, knows that when her time comes to show her body to her man, her husband is there, she's going to do that way better than the girl who's used to showing her cleavage all the time. You know, like it's going to be more of that experience you're looking for.
It's going to be a much higher level.
Much higher level.
Just busting out the cleavage and showing your skin, it's like that's all there is. Like she's probably not going to be that. There's probably not much more
like
to go.
Hanging a for sale sign on your neck.
Yeah, and there's
so
not much more to go.
If you're in a relationship with or you're dating this girl and she's always hanging a for sale sign on your neck, like, you want that?
Do you really want that? I mean, there's no
do you
house.
really like it? I mean, but that's the whole point is you might like it. But it's not like you want it. You shouldn't want it. That's the hard part about
But what I think you're saying is like there's so much more to like a woman that she got a certain way she walks, you know? She's got a certain way she moves her hands. You know, she looks at you and she has like a gesture like within her. She's speaking through her eyes. You know what I mean?
That is what I'm talking about.
Her movements are like more like this refined lady. Like you can tell things will progress from there.
I notice that a lot.
Versus the girl that just is just hot. You know what I mean? That's all you're getting. You know what I mean?
Not even
like,
hot.
You've reached the finish line already.
Like, it's like there's like hot, right? And it's just an image, because that can honestly, dude, there's so many glib, you know, shallow, and guys will just write it off because they're like, she's a 10, she's a dime.
She's got them goggles on.
You know, but then again, you're dealing with that. That's what you're going to have, bro. You know, in attractiveness,
is something that's supposed to grow in your relationship. So you need to know that she's able to work on those things, because she's not going to be that kind of a dime the rest of her life.
Yeah.
When she's 40, 50 years old, she's going to have to try and stoke your coals in different ways and make you feel attracted to her in different ways. And you need to acknowledge that. So, like,
and she's got to know that she's attractive.
Well, that's what I'm saying. That's
she's got to know that she's attractive enough to wear a freaking carpet, dude, and be hot. You know what I mean? And know she's sexy.
Parka on.
Yeah, get that freaking burqa on, carpet, dude. And she knows she's sexy. There's nothing better than that, because like that, like when she gets older, when these things end up happening, she's still gonna have that flame, and like that is so important.
I think so,
because like if a woman doesn't feel confident around you, or she doesn't feel like she's leveling up, good luck with that.
Yeah, I would say like for the women, for as far as red flags go, if the woman you're dating is always got some kind of a club outfit on. Doesn't matter what you're going to the park or you're going to the restaurant. She's always ready to go to a club. That's a red flag right there. And then the same thing if you want to, like, if we want to play devil's advocate, okay, because it can go the other way. I mean, say for instance you got a girl who's very traditional, conservative Christian, and like she's wearing a one piece to the beach. Maybe you'd be like, yo, you know, like you can wear a bikini. Like we're in Florida, it's okay. You don't have to wear the one piece. You know, like.
Or you go out to like a really nice dinner, you know what I mean? Like,
and she's wearing a button-up tee. Like you're just like, whoa! Like you can wear something a little more elaborate.
Yeah, like her dress comes down to her ankles. You know what I mean?
Which is not. That's not the worst thing to deal with. I would take that in a heartbeat. I'd be like, this is not a hard thing to learn. You're good to go.
Yeah, but so I guess horses for courses. You know what I mean? You know.
And then the other part of it is the online attention, and like like for me. And I think a lot of guys, you just open up a girl's Instagram and you make an immediate judge a book by its cover on like, oh, this girl's just all about attention in like 2 minutes of looking at her photos.
And I would trust my gut on that.
Yeah. And and we've talked about this before too, like a lot of these girls that are beautiful and immediately are posting stuff on social media that gain them attention. So at a young age, they're receiving a fire hose of attention. Mm-hmm. And can they turn that off for you?
Hammer damage, bro.
Yeah. Can they turn that off for you? And like, are you able to tell them, yeah, you're going to take, like, if I'm going to take you seriously, you're going to take down all of those photos and put your photo or your profile private. Like, well, how are they going to respond to that? And I think a lot of them are not going to be happy.
Have you ever seen those girls that like when they're with a guy, like they change their profile, and then like when they're not,
those are called sociopaths.
Promiscuous pictures come right back on. Like, whoa, okay.
Instagram's the best dating app, and you know, they've asked the girls on Fresh and Fit multiple times, like, would you rather have your Instagram or like a quality boyfriend? And it's shocking how many pick Instagram, because for them it's endless options. So you're asking me to curb all my options for this one guy? No.
And what's apparent to me is those girls don't know what they're missing out on. Mm-hmm. That's the whole sad part of it. That's the tragedy of it. That's where Satan has sold them a lie and said, well, a long-term relationship's going to suck. Basically, that's what they think.
Well, a lot of them have. A lot of them have been screwed over by dudes.
Well, here's the thing: is like that's going to happen no matter what.
They're jaded.
Yeah, dude, it happens. You're not the only one, so get over it. And it still works when it works. So that's the best thing to go shoot for. I feel like a lot of the girls that are younger, they just don't want to stop playing. You know, they want to play.
They'll stop play at 30.
Yeah, girls just want to have fun.
Yeah,
let's just be real.
What was that?